overview of BACnet. So here we go. The agenda, first we'll talk about just the standard protocol benefits. BACnet is a standard protocol. We'll just go over why a standard protocol is important and what it will offer to end users. Next we'll just go over what is BACnet, go into some basics, how it's interoperable, and what type of support we have. And then we'll talk about some more customer benefits, and then we'll just do a quick overview of what Carrier can offer for BACnet. So why is a standard protocol important? The simplest thing that an end user wants is one control system to control all of the different portions of his building. Unfortunately, most pieces of equipment from a building are made by multiple manufacturers, so there's always an issue of integrating all of those control systems into one single seat workstation for an end user. By developing a standard protocol that multiple manufacturers can follow, this makes it easy for one system to control and talk to many different equipment systems. So if you do not have a standard protocol, it still is possible to integrate multiple pieces of equipment into one control system. However, it does get expensive and complicated. Generally, you would need some sort of gateway or translator that can integrate, for instance, Modbus to BACnet or LAN to BACnet, or some sort of communication between two protocols that is generally expensive. Also going along with that, you generally need custom programming, even with a gateway, to integrate multiple protocols, which does add up dollar-wise. And then finally, you have vendor cooperation that I'm sure most of you know is always hard to get. Everyone always points fingers, and it just complicates things. So a standard protocol ideally eliminates all of these issues, makes it simpler for yourselves and for an end user. One also note at the bottom there, a standard protocol allows an end user to not feel locked into one control system, to get multiple bids, to look at multiple different pieces of equipment, because they can all speak one language and integrate into his system. So I already mentioned a few of these, but we'll just review them again. You do not need gateways with a standard protocol. You should be able to just connect controllers through the system with BACnet as a standard protocol and speak with them with the BACnet rules. You can have multiple manufacturers' pieces of equipment. You get one single seat workstation, and again, the owner is not locked into one control system. So what is BACnet? BACnet stands for Building Automation and Control Networks. It is a standard protocol that was designed for building automation systems, and we will discuss it a little bit more on the next slide. BACnet originally was developed for HVAC. However, obviously that's not the only thing that controls a building, so they have evolved, and now they continue to evolve, and now you can integrate and control systems, lighting systems, fire systems, sprinkler systems, security systems, and the list just keeps evolving, keeps growing with all of the development with technology in BACnet. So, what is BACnet specifically? BACnet is a set of hardware and software rules that was developed by ASHRAE that a vendor must follow in order to meet BACnet standards. ASHRAE developed this protocol. ASHRAE regulates this protocol, develops this protocol. There are committees that meet and discuss problems and future evolutions. It is something that is definitely growing, and it is a protocol that's freely distributed. There are publications of all of the rules, standards, regulations, points generally that each manufacturer provides. It is completely open so that it is simple and easy for end users is the main goal behind it. Currently there are 520 registered BACnet implementers. I think this may be a little outdated. I think there are more now. So it is widely accepted and greatly growing here. So the set of hardware and software rules for BACnet. The first rule is that any type of information that is to be shared within the BACnet system is represented by an object. By an object. And we'll discuss specifically what objects entail on the next slide here. But the second rule is the way to communicate between objects is with standard messaging or servicing rules. And we'll discuss those as well. And then the third rule is that you need a standard network or cable between communication bus in order to communicate these systems, between the systems here. So, an object. An object represents a collection of organized information that may be shared with others. Objects are the main points that you will need to access within your control system. So it's anything from an analog input of a sensor, an output to a valve, a set point value, a schedule, a trend. If we go, I'm going to go one slide quicker here. You can see these are the 23 standard objects that are defined by BACnet. We have binary inputs, outputs, like I mentioned before, calendars, schedules. These are just the standard objects, standard ways to represent data or information on your control system. Going back a slide here, each object has properties associated with it. So the first property of an object is the object name. This is how you find that object, that point, and how it's represented throughout the system. So for instance, your sensor has an object name of space temp. And that sensor, being a space temperature sensor, is an analog input, which is the object type. And then it also gives you a present value, which is the current reading of that sensor at the time, as well as a high limit and a low limit reading as well. So in order to access a specific point via the BACnet, you would reference it via its object name, and you would read its present value or write to its present value, depending on how you wanted to access it. And reading and writing are part of the next rule of BACnet, which is the services rule, or regular standards of BACnet. So there are a couple different services. The main two services that you would use would be a read or a write service. This is how you integrate points and access points throughout the control system. So a read property value service would be used to read the object of space temperature, to read the present value of it. So if you wanted to read a space temperature of a rooftop unit on your system, you would use a read property to read that value. Now, if you wanted to take an outdoor air temperature reading, say, on one of your controllers, and you wanted to use that reading, that value on another controller, you would use a write property in order to do that. These are the object services that BACnet defines, and there are a few more, but the main ones you need to use are read and write, and that is how you communicate objects throughout the system. Finally, the third rule we have here are transport systems, and it is basically just how you communicate physically, what type of wire you use or what type of protocol you use throughout the BACnet system. So the 5 ones that BACnet can currently do are BACnet IP, MSTP, ARCnet, Ethernet, and PTP. Each of these transport systems are readily available and used by many vendors, manufacturers. Currently, Carrier can only do BACnet IP and MSTP, but the majority of what you'll see out there is BACnet MSTP currently. However, the way BACnet is open protocol, standard protocol, it could use ARCnet, Ethernet, or PTP as well. So, just a general summary here. BACnet has objects that represent information on your system, points, properties, values, and those objects are communicated throughout the system with services, read services, write services, and finally each system has a transport system that communicates the information between them. So, BACnet, like I mentioned before, is regulated and controlled through ASHRAE, through a committee. BACnet is internationally accepted. There are currently groups, international groups that use BACnet as well. Again, it's constantly evolving. It is a type of protocol that will be around. It is the future of controls protocol. So you can see there it's in Europe, Poland, Russia. Many groups across the globe use this type of system. So how does BACnet make its documentation, its protocol interoperable? They do publish documentation specifically for, if we go to the next slide here, oh, we lost the slide. But there are what are called PIC statements. It's product integrated confirmation statements, and these tell you what the different control systems can communicate via BACnet, how they communicate, what accessible points they have. Most vendors do publish, if not all, their points lists so that you know how to communicate to specific points, to find different objects, what reference names you need to use, what values, what types. There is what's called a BACnet testing laboratories compliance testing that you can get. This is open to all manufacturers. It's a public listing. You do receive a mark. It's just like a UL listing, but it certifies that you have BACnet tested and that you can communicate and operate with BACnet. And like I mentioned before, what are called PIC statements. This is all accessible on BACnet's website. BACnetinternational.net is the website. So specifically, you can look at different vendors and different controllers of different vendors that have published PIC statements and BTL listings, all the information that you would need for specifications or information on controllers. There are a few other types of BACnet devices that help in integrating and providing interoperability. One of those is an auto-discover tool, and what that does is when you plug in a different controller from a different manufacturer to yours, there's what's called an auto-discover tool, which will automatically discover all the points that are talking via BACnet from that controller. This is huge so that you don't actually have to specifically custom program all of the points from a table that you found or from a published points list. You can actually discover all the points that are being communicated from that controller at that time and reference each of them and access each of them with a read or write property. It's a great tool to have. Most vendors currently have them, and it just greatly simplifies the integration procedure, which is, as you guys probably know, always complicated. So there are also interoperability workshops that BACnet provides to develop its system and to get its people trained on integrating multiple systems and just provide as much support as they can so that it's a simple process. Again, BACnet is trying to make controls simple and easy for everyone. You see last year's fall workshop, there were more than 35 companies that took part. Basically, ASHRAE has made it clear that they are supporting BACnet and that they want everyone to learn BACnet so that we can provide the best service to end users and provide the simplest interoperability of control systems. This is just a little table of the growth of BACnet. I believe all of the main HVAC vendors can all do BACnet if they're all not native BACnet, but as you can see, you've got the number of vendors on the left and the years now. We're already up over 500 vendors that support BACnet. All this information can be found on www.bacnet.org, but BACnet is the future of control systems for building automation. So it is growing, it will continue to grow, continue to evolve. And currently, Carrier's new product line is BACnet MSTP standard. Again, here's some of the listings of members part of BACnet International. You can see you've got Automated Logic, Allerton, Carrier, Johnson, Tritium, Siemens. They are all on there. And then if you look below, there's a link to just a list of all the other manufacturers that we have available here on BACnet. So just summarizing here, interoperability and customer benefits. There is common documentation for the BACnet standards, rules, specifications. That's all available. There's also documentation for any type of controller that can speak BACnet, displaying points, how to integrate properly, what points to reference. You have tools like the Auto Discovery tool that will allow you to access auto discover points that are speaking BACnet, just following the regulations. There's compliance testing, broad usage, and then again, it's cost effective because you can eliminate gateways, custom programming, and multiple vendor cooperation. Those are all big costly items that with using a standard protocol like BACnet definitely decreases your cost. And again, does not lock a building owner into one specific control system. It is something that allows multiple manufacturers to use the same control system and allows a vendor to look for multiple manufacturers. I'm sorry, an owner to look for multiple manufacturers. Real quick, just an outline of Carrier's Open Controls product line. All of these controllers are BACnet MSTP native. They all can integrate into any BACnet control system, and any BACnet speaking controllers can be integrated into the Carrier system. There's anything from, you got rooftop controllers, water source heat pump controllers, fan coil controllers, zone controllers, BBT controllers, and custom programmable controllers that can control anything from an air handler to lighting systems. Anything you can think of can basically be done throughout these controllers and can be integrated onto other systems. And Carrier can also integrate via gateways, Modbus and LAN, and a portion, and the rooftop controller can actually be integrated into an N2 system as well. So that's kind of just a quick overview of what we had here. Do you guys have any specific questions of what you'd like to go over in more detail, or anything else that came up? I'm just looking over what we got here. Does the auto discovery have to be built into the main control system, the specific controller, or both? The auto discovery does not have to be on a specific controller itself. That would have to be within the control system that is the main building automation system. They would have to have the ability to to auto discover the points from a controller. But any BACnet controller standard does put out all of its points that are available, so you can auto discover them. Let's see what else we got here. Tritium interface with Carrier. Tritium, there is a integration. There is a gateway to interface old Carrier controls, CCN controls, into Tritium. But the current version of Carrier controls, the open product line, is BACnet MSTP native. So any Tritium that can speak BACnet MSTP can integrate Carrier controllers. There are published points list of all the points that can be integrated into the system. Again, it's pretty standard, just following the read-write services and accessing the object names. The points lists are not actually on BACnet sites. You would have to get them from your Carrier representative. However, the product integrated conformance sheets are on BACnet site. What current manufacturers do not integrate with BACnet? That is a good question. I believe all of the large ones do. I know Train was LAN, but I believe they're going to BACnet currently. However, if you look on BACnet on that website, I'll pull that page up real quick here. It has all the listed vendors that you can see on there. So I believe the majority of them, if not all of them, can all at least integrate to BACnet currently. They are just not all standard BACnet. If we look right here, let's pull this slide up here really quick. Well, you can see it's BACnetinternational.org/associations. That link takes you to all the listed vendors. Okay, where are they published? The points lists for specific controllers, again, are published within the documentation of each manufacturer's controller. So not all of the points lists are published on BACnet's site. You have to talk to the representative of each controller. As for Honeywell and Lon, I guess, Robert, you got to, here, I'll zoom in on this for you guys, but you got to be a little bit more specific of what you need for Honeywell or Lon on there. Do I have an example of a PIC statement? I do have an example of a PIC statement. If you guys, are you guys good with this this website? Y'all have that now? I'm going to pull up a quick PIC statement here. Again, you can find all PIC statements on BACnet's website. I'm going to pull that up. Standard wiring for BACnet MSTP networking. Again, like I mentioned before, there's multiple different transport systems you can use. There's BACnet IP, there's Ethernet, there's ArcNet. Standard MSTP wiring, which is the majority of what you'll see in what carrier is native, is a 2-conductor, 22-gauge shielded wire. Generally twisted pair, but other than that, I mean, it's pretty simple. All wiring in BACnet is within a daisy chain orientation. So you have a beginning of line, you go into one controller and out of the same controller throughout. There's no home running or all daisy chained throughout with the same wiring. What else do we have here? Sorry, I typed it in wrong, guys. So standard wiring for protocol basics, VAV boxes and chiller and rooftop. Again, all the controllers, again, are wired daisy chain. Jim, we can talk more in detail about it. We can go through some wiring diagrams as well if you want. But I guess that's kind of a more specific question. Where am I here? Oh, typed it in wrong again here. Trying to just pull up a PIC statement for you guys. All the PIC statements for the the carrier controllers are provided in the installation manuals, so you can access them there. But I just typed in www.bacnet.org. If you guys can see, on the left-hand side there's a PICS link. Protocol implementation conformance statements. I'm sorry about that. Let's see if we can get some here. This just outlines of what it is. I may have to email you guys a copy of a PIC statement because I'm not finding it right away here. But all the PIC statements are published. They are published on HVAC Partners, and they are published in the installation manuals for Carrier. As for on Carrier's website, I believe that if you can access the installation manuals, which you should be able to, you should be able to find those PIC statements, but again, they're all published on BACnet's website, which would allow you to see them as well. Let's see if I can just pull one up on Google. This looks like it's a McQuay PIC statement. So you guys can all see this. You got your vendor name, product name, the class of BACnet conformance, functional group supported. These are the different types of services that they can provide. You got acknowledge alarms, notifications, create objects, read writes, all the different services, and the different object types that are available. They won't specifically go into the points and the object names. Like I said before, you have to go to the manufacturer's literature in order to find those, but these are all the object types that are supported via this controller. And then you have the different type of transport services that you can communicate with. So as you can see, you've got the ArcNet, you've got MSTP, ISO, LAN, etc. Other than that, did I miss anything that you guys wanted to see, or did I miss any questions? I thought I tried to get to all of them here. Again, this is kind of just an overview of the fundamentals of BACnet. If you guys are interested in more detailed, if you wanted to go through wiring details of different controllers, different options, we'd be happy to put something on for you. Just, I guess, if you want to leave comments of what else you'd like to see, we'd be happy to help you guys. So, owner's needs and wants. Do manufacturers provide any customization of these points? Jeff, for your question, there is customization of accessing points and displaying points. However, depending on the controller that you are integrating with, the BACnet controller of the manufacturer, you kind of only get the points that they make available to you. So in order to get specific points that may not be standard points, you would have to discuss with the manufacturer of that controller how to get those points or those objects that you need to communicate with or that you need for your end user. But the majority of the points that are published are all the required points that you need. I mean, the majority of carriers' controllers are at least over 100 points that are accessible. So unless you need something really specific, you should have everything that you need standard. But again, you can customize how you display those points and how you integrate those points on your system or a building automation system. So, anything else? Again, you guys feel free. I do have contact information for you guys. For TEC contacts. Didn't get to that slide. I'll just throw it up here really quick. Again, my name's Sal Sangaroni. I'm the main contact that you can reach me at, cell phone or email if you have any questions. Again, we have some backup contacts. Fred Arnold, Dan Olivier, and Sam Cosgrove all work for TEC, and they're all available to help you with any needs that you have. Tim's question of does carrier require an interface card to talk to another manufacturer's equipment? The only way it would require an interface card would be if it does not speak BACnet, BACnet MSTP or IP. Other than that, they can standard speak with any other controller that can speak those languages. So you shouldn't need anything special. Jim's question. If our chillers and RTUs are CCN native, do we still need a BACnet card to get the points through if the RTU is specified open? Yes, you do need a BACnet card on a CCN controlled unit in order to communicate with any type of open product or BACnet product. So even if you have a specified rooftop unit that is open, if you have a rooftop unit that is open, you'll have a BACnet card, but if you want to talk with a chiller or other rooftops that are CCN native carriers, standard proprietary protocol language, you will have to have a BACnet card or a translator card for those because CCN is not standard BACnet. Hopefully that answers your question, Jim. If you want to discuss in more detail, you can always give me a call. Or if anyone else has any other questions, please feel free to give us any type of contact that you would need help with. So, other than that, if there are no more questions, thank you guys for attending. Again, this is just an introduction, so if you want more details, you want more information, please let us know, and we will do our best, do the best we can to accommodate you. With that, I will be ending the webinar. So, again, you got our emails. If you need us, let us know. Thank you, everyone.